they're gonna get used to, dealing with the technical difficulties. Speaking of which, it is what it is. Let's do a sound check. How well do I sound?
You sound perfect. I can hear you loud and clear.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. You,
Yes.
you, ought, you ought to see this little makeshift setup I got up going on over here, but it's working. It's working.
Yes, indeed. There we go. My sound man is somewhere else tonight, so without the team support.
They have no idea how important team support is. You see what I'm saying?
Indeed. And none of us ever do till we have to handle all the back end. There we are. Okay. So we are in a moment here. I am going to just slide over this way just for a second.
Take your time. Take your
Bear
time.
with me, and I'm going to get. So I want to make sure that we are good to go over here. So let me just check on this side and make sure that we're live, good to go from the back end. All right. And we are good. Okay, bear with me just one moment. This is so another thing I rely on my team for is my water. I didn't get my water.
Go get the water. I
Not
got
just a
mine. So go
moment.
get yours. Go get yours. Mm. All right. So the audience whom we know as our family, right? And anybody else who's going to be joining, subscribing, y'all are going to become family as well. And we're going to treat you just like family, just like you come into your auntie in them house. We're going to tell you to go on to the kitchen and get what you want. Don't ask me and disturb me. So come on in, sit down, chill out, and get ready to enjoy the show.
Ashe, ashe. There it is. All right, excellent. So, welcome to anybody who is joining us for the first time. I am Raven Alvarez, aka the Fly Priestess, and my guest this evening who is joining me is Andre Hill Jr. And Andre has a podcast called. Go ahead, and share your. I'm going to let you share your bio with everybody. Introduce you to my
Gotcha.
friends and
Shameless
family here.
plug in the bio. Peace and love, everyone. Peace and love. I'm Andre Hill Jr., also known as Andre Maurice Amaru Day. Have a podcast on Facebook, the Straight Talk Network. Go on to Facebook, just type in Straight Talk Network, and you'll see me and my father's logo pop up, and that's how you know it's me and him. Um, what do I do? My background. What do I do? Well, I'm a cosmologist, cosmology teacher as well. Um, what else do I do here?
Mhm.
My bio
On your
sounds
Earth
real.
visit.
It sounds real resume-ish. You feel what I'm saying? I was gonna say I got a background in construction, and I do. I actually do have a background in construction. But what do I use that for? The background in construction, degree in agriculture, and what do I apply that to? Building self-sustainable microcosms, and we're gonna get into that later on in the show. But a quick overview of it is a completely self-sustainable community to where we utilize all basic resources for not only as a means of sustaining, but also as a means of production as well. In other words, everything that we use on a day-to-day basis to live, we also make sure that we're not just consuming, but we're also producing and harmonizing with nature in that manner. All right, that's a good gist of it, right? That's a good gist.
Perfect
Okay.
gist. Yes, excellent. And so tonight is part two of a two-part series. We did the first part on Straight Talk Network's podcast yesterday. So the link for that will be available in the comments here if anybody wants to join in the first part. So what we're planning to do this evening is to expound on our conversation from yesterday. So what I'd like to do first is just give a brief recap or a summary for those of for anybody who's joining now who didn't get a chance to catch yesterday's episode. So the subject here is about. Oops, we got. Is that there's some sort of sound there?
You hear something?
Why do we have a creaky sound? Okay, well, I guess we'll have to cut that out later.
No, you know what? Is that the door? Was that the door again?
Not this time. This time it's coming from in the phone somewhere.
Cool.
So the subject is we're talking about the root chakra, and
Mm,
we're talking about the root chakra, the development of the root chakra. So this is part of a greater series on spiritual anatomy, and within that, the spiritual anatomy conversation, which is going to be like a 6-month podcast series.
mm.
Within the spiritual anatomy series, we are discussing the chakras, and you would think you would just be able to do a brief overview of the chakras and then just slide on because it's something that everybody knows about. But there are actually a lot of very important details about the chakras which are overlooked, but which are key to understanding how the chakras bridge the. Oops. Okay, let me see. I feel like how the chakras bridge the. Or I'm sorry. I keep hearing like a clicking sound. Are you hearing that, or am I sounding okay?
You sound great. I hear no clicking sound.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Great. Good. Okay. Hopefully, no one else does either. I hear it. Okay. So I'll have to chop that part out.
Yeah.
But yes. So we're connecting. So inside the greater spiritual anatomy, we've broken the spiritual anatomy down to this first section talking about the chakras, and then rather than just being some sort of the usual conversation about chakras, which begins and ends with something spiritual. What Andre and I are doing is bridging the gap between the spirituality. Oh, okay, all right. So somebody else is able to hear the noise too.
Okay.
Um, let me see if there's something I can do.
What
Hmm.
does it sound like? Like it's
It's
clicking?
sort of like a crackling. Um, hmm. Maybe if I put the mic down a little bit. All
Mm.
right. So, yeah. All right, I'm gonna try maybe backing up a little, maybe if I back away from the microphone. All right. Actually, I think that worked. I think maybe that's what was wrong. So let me just nope, we
You
still
still
got
hear it?
oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try something else here. All right, we're having all the tech tech
But
details.
it's all good. We're not gonna let that stop it though. This is an important message we got to get to you, family. Very important message.
Yes,
So
indeed.
bear with us with the tech stuff. It's always something when we start discussing land economics and stuff. You feel me?
Yes, yes. Always those energies that want to invade the
Indeed,
conversation.
indeed,
The
indeed.
archons, etc.
But especially them, especially them. Yeah,
All right, there. I think that's okay now. So, and if it's not, well, it's just going to have to go ahead like that, and we'll have to make
yeah,
adjustments later.
indeed.
So, bridge. So what? So again, just to back up again. Sorry, everybody, and thank you for bearing with us. So,
Mhm,
what's important here is that we bridge the gap between the spiritual world and between the reality of our everyday lives. So we're not just trying to, get everybody to get out there and meditate. I am the creator of Wadjet Yoga.
mhm,
Yoga is an immense way to self-develop because this is a serpent power yoga. It's not about touching your toes and stretching your hamstrings. This is the yoga of self development. It's about making you spiritually refined. It's an alchemy. It's about purifying the being so that you become somebody else, so that you can actualize your destiny. That's the purpose for all of us to be here, is to understand who we are and to actualize our destiny. And what's important about that is that we need to separate what's real from what is false in us, and that purification process is what does that. So if
mhm.
we don't understand spiritual anatomy and how it works, if we don't understand the chakras, functions, and how they apply to real life, then we don't have the broadest sense of understanding of what it is that we are here to do, what is real enough, what is false enough, and making decisions based on our real, true spiritual nature and our destiny, rather than making life choices and decisions based on our trauma, based on ancestral trauma, based on past experiences and things like that. So,
Hmm.
diving in. So, to expound on our conversation yesterday. So, Dre, would you like to go forward and just recap some of what you shared yesterday, talking about land economics and your position on that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm gonna attempt to tie it back into root chakra as well, right? I mean, as a segue. Um, so when we think of land, um, separate from economics, because that's typically how we've been conditioned, right? We think of buying land and or buying property, let's say that, right? In most cases, uh, we're not so adept, we're not trained, we're not educated on how to purchase land, right? And or purchase property, or even conceive how we're supposed to manage property, right? In most cases, we've been, let's say, conditioned, not even taught, on just getting a mortgage and paying on it for about 15 to 30 years, right? But when you think, or let's say when you look back at some of our ancient cultures, uh, and trying to remember how our culture dealt with land, let's say in more recent history, going back 200, 300 years ago. And I know it's difficult to kind of get some information on that era because that particular era has been in America has been completely hidden, right? Even within our own families, we have our elders and our family, and for some reason, there is some kind of fear or just misinformation on what was going on, let's say around the slavery time. And I'm bringing this up for as a point. Um, but when we look back at our you know our methods of buying land or obtaining land for whatever reason, we usually had a not just a use for dwelling there. It wasn't just a residence, but we used every aspect of that land in order to give us what we needed, right? Um, there was a reason, at one point in time, many of our elders and ancestors were sharecroppers, right? Reason why is because they were automatically, let's say, raised or cultivated within their own family to utilize the land. And so at the time, let's say 400, 200 or 300 years ago, when it came to colonialism, whether it was colonialism from European influences or colonialism from Aboriginal influences, let's say the marketing, the transferring of sharecroppers around the nation was simply because our people knew how to utilize all lands, right? We know how to grow everything that we needed from straight from the source, right? So the point is today we want to get back to that and expound upon that, right? So because today we have different technologies when it comes to energy, when it comes to water recirculation and filtration, when it comes to agriculture, and then just let's say the industry of housing itself, right? We have to really refigure our minds and also learn more and be willing to change the narrative of how we utilize property, right? So when we think of land economics and those components that I just mentioned, let's talk about energy, water, and food, right? And then we'll get to shelter in a minute. Um, Today, we practically have no excuse not to be able to produce our own power as a community, right? Not just get it for free. You see what I mean? Not just get it for free, but also produce it and quote unquote capitalize off of it. Right? Just imagine this for me. Imagine this with me for a moment. a community of, let's say, 10 houses with a solar panel array on top of their house or a solar panel array in their backyard, however it's mounted, doesn't matter where it is, that community can essentially become its own power company, become its own power company, right? Um, and then imagine you got some more space, you have more space for agriculture. Side note, as an agriculturalist, I focus heavy on urban agriculture, meaning I have to be able to develop urban agricultural spaces, which are, for one, minimal and a lot less in size than, let's say, rural agriculture. I have to find city lots to create agricultural space in. And this is the thing, it can be done very easily, very easily. 4,000 square foot worth of space can feed, let's say, at least 5 families, at least. So for one city lot, it can feed 5 homes easily with abundance, right? Um, and most importantly, when we start thinking about, I don't want to say the last, definitely not the least important resource, water, right? When it comes to water. Listen, as a side note, I did a presentation to investors, a real estate party we threw back in December, and part of the presentation was it was a concept for uh, a subdivision, right, out in the rural, and instead of tapping into county or city water, I suggested that for one, you tap into water tables under the ground, in other words, well water, and how a lot of people do it out in the rural, they have what they call septic tanks, right? And so um, I started explaining to people in the room that your water that you use, that you run from your tap every day. I was like, you do know that everybody in the city has used that water, like in the last, in the last, at least the last 3 weeks. You see what I'm saying? And everybody was like, ugh. I was like, y'all didn't, yeah, the water that you shower with, yeah, somebody else used that. Yeah, they did, right? And so now, mind you, when you use your water, in whatever case, it's like, mind you, there's no new water on this planet. so some organism use that water. I'm not going to go into any graphic details, but some organism has used that water before. My point
Mhm.
is, um, water as an important resource that it is for one very malleable and influenceable, right? And you just want to be in a state of mind of controlling the ingredients, to say the least.
To say the least.
You want to be controlling the ingredients in your water, right? And so compiling all of these components and putting them into a package for property development. That is just the key, the basics on the direction we want to go into when we're thinking about property, how we're purchasing it, and what we plan on doing with it, which allows it to sustain itself, right? And those are just going for the basic resources. Now, then, if you get into the housing part of it itself, right? Um, I'm not going to sit on the mic for too long, but when we think about the real estate industry, um, where it is today, especially regarding Airbnbs and renting, right? We we want to start being very deliberate on getting with collectives who are savvy and adept in real estate, and understanding exactly how we can um, more properly manage, more economically manage, right? More lucratively manage how we set up shelter and housing for not only ourselves, but those who are close to us and or any other families in need.
Yeah.
You feel me? Um, Now, when we're thinking about all of that, in conjunction with the root chakra, the fact that we don't understand that, let alone apply it, right? it's probably one of the most well hidden, purposely hidden root chakra traumas that we have as a community, right? Um, the fact that, even if our electricity bill and or water bill plus our mortgage, that may be, well, I'll tell you what, let's separate it. When it comes to utilities alone, when it comes to utilities alone, the fact that we know we have a bill on it, and is now it's subconsciously a thing that we, a program we run in our head every month, that we know we have this bill coming. And in most cases, it's a fear factor that if we don't pay this bill, then we're at risk of our basic survival.
Mhm.
You see what I mean?
Losing our resource.
Yes, we're at risk of a basic survival. And I could just imagine, um, and I ain't got to imagine it. I've been through it myself, right? We've all we've all been through it to where you can't really focus on anything else when you know you may have that in the balance, right? You can't focus on creating. You can't focus on happiness. You can't focus on that bigger idea that you have that you want to get into business with,
Mhm.
right? Most of the living outside of basic survival becomes stagnant
Mhm.
when you don't have ownership and control over your basic resources, right? And and here's where, again, this hidden trauma, this lack of progression forward, starts to take place in our communities at large, because we simply have no idea what's going to happen to us in the next day if our basic resources start to run short, right? So all of these things, and me and you and Raven, we were trying to identify, like, in other words, accurately diagnose a, uh, 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 a root chakra trauma tied to um, tied to this lack of ownership and control of our basic resources. And we went in pretty deep on it. We went in pretty deep on it on my Straight Talk podcast.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So let
but
me break that down for everybody a little bit.
indeed.
Just explaining, giving the spiritual breakdown of the root chakra. So this once again, so we spoke about this the last few episodes, just about the root chakra, breaking down what it is, what it looks like, how it functions.
Mhm,
So the root chakra, to give a visual demonstration. So when you are born, your root chakra is closed like a bud,
mhm,
and as it develops, it opens up. So the same way the flower kind of opens up. And then once it opens, also in its development, it goes from being still to spinning. And it has two separate sets of wheels that spin in each other. And this is what allows energy to come into the root and energy to go out from the root also. And so at any point in the development of the root chakra, debris can get locked into the root chakra. Debris
mhm,
means psychic trauma. It means any traumatic experience that you have, any experience that affects the root itself. So any experience of lack, any experience of poverty, any experience of a loss of resources, any experience of any needs not being
mhm,
met during your early development, all of these store themselves in the developing root chakra. And these issues stay with us until they're purified. They stay there. So as a root chakra goes, so you can become an adult, and if everything is locked in there, your root chakra is now blocked. So it can be crumpled. It can be spinning instead of spinning at the proper speed. It can be
mhm,
spinning a less spin. So that means it's drawing in less energy and it's
mhm,
emitting less energy. And so with these kind of root chakra blockages, misalignments, root chakra issues, just to call to lump them as issues, any of these things can manifest as difficulty with finances,
mhm,
difficulty getting things taken care of the inability to manifest. If anybody, it's been decades now that people are talking, oh, the secret, the secret, the secret. And
Hmm.
if any of you have ever done the secret and then wonder, well, why isn't it working for me? Why isn't this millionaire mindset working for me? What am I missing? What am I not doing? What is everybody in these YouTube videos that is like, I made $100,000 in a month, with my first business. And people are wondering, well, what's happening? What am I doing wrong? But what's happening is, no matter how much you say, no matter how much you ask, no matter how much you want anything, the universe works in vibration. So
Hmm.
whatever vibratory field you are spinning at, so if you, just like my microphone today is having some sort of weird crackle and clicking sound going on, if your root chakra is filled with debris and there's some sort of clicking and crackling going on, the universe isn't getting a full download from you about what it is that you really want. You can have blockages in there where you don't even believe that you deserve to have.
Hmm.
And so there are people who have mentally, having things arrive to us in the mental level is easy. A thought transferring to a thought, you can read a book and a thought can be transferred into you, but changing your vibration is a different thing. Your
Hmm.
vibrational field is an entirely different thing. That's why, root chakra understanding spiritual anatomy is a big deal. It's not like a thought or a mind or these kind of things. These are tangible things with a real place in space time. They are not in the dimension that is noticeable to most humans with the senses that we have been have that we've been narrowed down into using.
Hmm.
But these are real things. A root chakra is a real thing, and when it is filled with debris and it cannot function at normal speed and with normal openness, the things you want to manifest with life. So we do get to the place where we're worrying about bills, worrying about, where's the next meal going to come from? People living paycheck to paycheck. Those are root chakra deficient manifestations.
Hmm.
And so the once we've manifested this, when we recognize that, oh wow, okay, so the life that I'm living is showing me that I have a root chakra deficiency, and because I'm always late. I can't seem to get my bills paid. When we recognize that we have these root chakra deficiencies, or I can't see myself as an entrepreneur, I can't see myself as a millionaire. If you can't even envision, like think about the root chakra down necessary for you to not even be able to envision ownership of your own resources,
Hmm.
to imagine to being able to store up, because the root chakra is about harvest. It's about storing up your survival needs. If you cannot imagine storing up anything past next week's paycheck,
Hmm.
then and you can't even imagine having $1 million spare, $1 million in your account of a net worth, a self worth of $1 million. And yes, our worth is the reason why people's worth is so closely linked to money is because money is a very easy and tangible representation of our capacity to manifest.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times people's self-worth is tied up in, it's not about the money. Sometimes people aren't even aware of that, but it's not about the money itself. It's about the capacity to manifest. When people
Hmm.
look at somebody and like, oh, baller, what a big baller and everything, that's about, they're what they're looking at is this person has a healthy, open root and they have a capacity to manifest. That's
Hmm.
something beautiful and attractive that everybody loves to see in each other. And if for people who don't love to see that, that is root chakra damage. When people are jealous or envious of others because of what they have, that is a direct reflection of fear that you don't have the capacity to make that for yourself. So when you see it in other people, it triggers your fear that you are not capable of making that yourself, and so it expresses itself as jealousy or envy. So yeah, so we talk about, so we need to talk about with the root chakra, what do we need to do? So if we're going to get to the place of, like Andre is talking about, we're going to get to the place of land development. If we get to own the light bill instead of pay the light bill, how do we get from not affording the light bill and cross ourselves over into a place where we are owning the light bill? Like, how do we make that jump?
Indeed. Um, Very simply, very simply. So, luckily today, right, technology is advancing. Technology is advancing, and in other words, it's becoming more affordable. I'm going to give this narrative from a perspective of, let's say, the most feasible or the most low hanging fruit, right? Um, as an individual, and as a community, right? When you think of uh, um, when you think of energy, or you think of, let's say, solar panels. Let's say solar panels. Let's start there. That's probably the most relatable, uh, uh, let's say, free or renewable energy source that that most people know about, right? And so, of course, I mean, I know most people have probably talked to a solar panel salesman, right? Probably talked to a solar panel salesman, and they told you, they can put some solar panels on your home for a set price, and or they can lease them to you. In other words, you pretty much leasing to buy them, right? Um, and so, of course, you can get those installed on your home as an individual, right? And depending on where you live in the U.S., um, whatever laws that are governing that state, or better yet, let me say it like this: if the private utility company that you're paying your light bill to has not lobbied in order to block, in order to block you from being able to tie back into the grid and then sell your excess energy to the grid, if
Mm,
they haven't done that,
key
then
point.
that's what you can do. Simple as that, right? It becomes a concept of you making an investment that's going to be worth its salt in return. You feel what I mean? Now, that's on an individual level, but imagine this as a community. Imagine this as a community, and this is going to go more to in the collective state of mind of uh, acquiring property and changing your direction and destiny on how you live from day to day,
Mm,
which is also living in harmony with your planet. Let me emphasize that. When we're talking about, I'm gonna step to the side for a minute here. When we're talking about owning and controlling your basic resources, family, that is a necessity as the next step of how you're going to live on this planet.
mhm.
You feel me? The truth is, you're not going to be able, let's say in the next 10 to 20 years, you're not going to be able to live very comfortably in a neighborhood to where you don't know your neighbors like that, to where y'all are not collectively working together economically and socially and politically,
Mhm.
right? Um, because I mean, literally what's
And if I
happening
could
here.
interject here, the reason that the forces that be are so intent on keeping everybody separated is because that exact power, having that communal collective power, it reduces the price of the collective resources that we can get together. It opens up the possibility for people who have each person may not have everything all figured out, but as a community, there's somebody within a community that can come to the table with something that somebody else doesn't have. And so all of that overlap means that you now have access to a way wider variety of options of resources that you may have had before. So there are constantly the buildings have been redesigned. The
Mhm,
current community setups are designed for everybody to be enclosed in this tiny backyard space so that
mhm,
they never interact with their neighbors. The way the structure of even dietary structure, people have quick lunch breaks. People don't have hours and hours like they do in some other countries where you go and you spend lunch. People in, like in France, for example, people go home and spend lunch with their families. So in the
mm,
middle of the day there's a massive break, and a lot of countries do this. There's a huge break in the middle of the day. You go home, you spend time with your family, with your loved ones, and then you rest, and then you go back to work, finish your work day. Here it's just meant to be some quick thing on the fly. So there's as little time as possible, as much time as possible is devoted to your wage slavery, and as little time as possible is devoted to your connecting with your collective. And
exactly.
so that's something that can also change with the structure. So by redesigning how communities are set up,
Mhm,
redesigning these sustainable microcosms. They're laid out so that people have to connect with each other, so that if you want to survive, there's a wave coming in the future, a wave of opposition. And we don't have to fear the opposition, but we do need to be prepared. And as they get ready to put the screws tighter on
yes.
on the middle class
Yes.
specifically.
Yes.
It's time to decide whether you want to either bottom out and go off grid, or whether you want to get the level of wealth to where you are not locked into whatever system they tell you have to be a part of. You can get up, you can go everywhere, you can travel, you can even leave the country where your sphere of influence is a lot greater, and your ability to survive in the way you want to is a lot more defined and powerful.
Indeed, indeed. You articulated that very well. That's exactly the case.
Mm.
That's exactly the case. I want everyone to imagine for a moment, and here is some root chakra um, influence, right? In other words, what I want to give to you is, or what me and Raven want to give to you is where our root chakra development has reached, and how it's flowing through our own mind, and how we're able to project this onto you, right? And of course, it's not a boast or a brag, but we spent decades, spent decades imagining and planning how do we develop this type of living, right? So imagine though, 10 to 20 families minimum, 10 to 20 families. You can easily go and acquire whatever size land that you need to put a housing structures that will accommodate 10 to 20 families on it. As a collective, you can easily do that. Quick note: when I moved down here to Florida from Nashville,
Mm.
you know what I realized? Um, Nashville blew up, and there was a lot of gentrification. I'm not even gonna get on that concept, but a lot
That's
of
another topic.
gentrification. Yeah, that's a whole other.
When we hit solar plexus chakra, we'll be talking about that gentrification.
Yes, indeed. But I saw the gentrification, right? I'm talking 400 to $500,000 homes sitting next to drug houses. I know for sure what drug houses in Nashville, right? And the most interesting thing about this was you had young, in most cases, Northern Caucasian people moving into these homes as friends,
Mm.
4 or 5 friends going in on a mortgage
Mhm.
of a house that was $400,000 to $500,000. Brand new wave that they meant to keep under the rug. Right, I had to do some extensive research to find this out. Right, and so
Yep, that's called
um,
hacking.
it's called what now?
House hacking.
House. Yes.
Hmm.
Right. Um, and in most and in most cases, we tend to think that our Hispanic brothers and sisters, or any quote unquote foreigner, from for that matter, when they come here to America and they do that, we put that theme on them as if that they do that in a sense of poverty. But no, family. Um, that is probably one of the most feasible ways that to live
Hmm.
comfortably, economically.
Hmm.
Um,
Sacrificing some short term.
Sacrificing some short term. And this matter of fact, on the other end of that spectrum, um, when I was working for a cable company, I got to see the inside of a lot of people's houses,
Mm.
right? On the other end of that spectrum, our brothers and sisters from India, when they do it baller style. Listen, I went into a neighborhood for when it was a gated community. You already know what it means when it's a gated community, all right? And I had to go install some cable at this house. Indian family, very nice too. But I assume the entire family lived there. But this is probably a 5,000 to 6,000 square foot home, 3 stories. The entire family lived there very comfortably. As I was walking through the house, I realized the extent of how much how much space and practically everything they needed in this one home. Right? I believe the elders lived on the first floor, and everybody else lived on the second and third floor. And this house was just immaculate on the inside, very, very well put together. Right? Um, they weren't planning on going anywhere. You know what I mean? It wasn't a matter of them moving out of the house to get a new one. It was like they were very comfortable, and that was just the culture, right? Um, were they living? Now I can just imagine though if they were living in a let's say a geographical location, a set of land to where they had more land space to then incorporate renewable energy, recyclable water, and agriculture. I can just imagine how how productive they'd be. Um, saying all of that to say this, when we start thinking about housing in general, we really have to get out of the state of mind that we only have two ways to do it, which is either to rent or get a mortgage. Is my point,
Mhm.
right? The power in collective housing, and it doesn't have. My point is the real point I want to drive home because I know as Americans, especially Aboriginal Americans, we are kind of fake bougie on housing. You see what I mean? We kind of fake bougie. It's like most of us can't afford to be truly bougie with the housing, but we'll live beyond our means with housing in most cases,
Mhm.
right? And so, and I understand we have a lot of perceived family traumas when it comes to living with one another, right? I know we think we have that issue,
Perceived,
uh,
exactly.
perceived, very perceived. But my thing is this, and in most cases, we've had to live with one another before, and there are many, many methods on how you get along with living with people in a communal style, right? Many, many methods. This is not a new concept. We're just bringing it to you because we know this is the next stage. I want to let's say root chakra evolution when we start
Exactly.
talking about self-sustainable microcosms and communal living, right? So as we, because me and Raven talk a lot about this, and this is not going to be the last time we talk about it, right? It's not going to be the last time we talk about it because this let's say lifestyle, which is probably going to be, the only lifestyle at some point in time. Um, this is this is going to be your only option, and we want to get you prepared for it as well. And we have no problem, let's say, leading the way on that, right? And no problem leading the way on that. Raven, I want to ask you, I don't want to skip forward into sacral chakra, but you mentioned it and it intrigued me, right? We can we can bring this topic into the sacral chakra discussion as well.
We
Okay.
let's keep it.
I just want to listen.
Let's keep our. Did you what point of the sacral was it that you were connecting to this?
No, no,
I'll jump right in
I
with
don't.
you and expound on it, but
No, 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 no. I'll tell you what. We'll do it like this. I mean, because as far as expertise on the chakras, I was gonna leave that up to you. But I'll tell you what. We'll do it like this. We'll drop that in there, and so y'all will have to stay tuned for that.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
have to stay tuned
definitely.
for that.
So that's so each of these the in during the chakra series. So every series will start off with one, just basically breaking down the chakra and what's the function, how it works, all the usual spiritual stuff that some people are new to, that you might think you know. Sometimes there's a there's always something new to know. We'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about some real life experiences because one of the reasons that Dre and I are having this conversation here is that it's always about applied knowledge.
Mhm,
So how does the knowledge, what is it, what is applied knowledge? So when we understand what the chakras are, so for example, I'll talk about my own past and certain things in my past that shaped my chakra development and growth. And then we talk about, we want to talk, of course, about ways to heal, how ways to address, ways to heal, recognizing, issues, damage, things like that. And then talk about applied science, back it up to applied science. So we want to find out, so how do I heal my root?
mhm,
What causes root damage? And then how do I heal it? And then what does it look like once it's healed? Like what should I,
mhm.
why would I even bother to go through the painful kundalini awakening to open my to unblock my root chakra? What's in it for me? What's it all leading to? And this is the type of stuff that it's leading to. So what I want to do, share, because we're getting close to the end here. We're going to be wrapping up soon. So I would like to just go, so when people say, well, how do I heal my root chakra? How do I tell when my root chakra is healed so that I can become a part of this land development so that I can, open up to communal circles. So
Mm,
let's talk about how you break down a chakra first. So you break it down by separating people, by colonizing a space, but you take
mhm,
over and you take the resources from the people. You colonize the space. You tell the people that they are no longer allowed to act on their own identity, on their own
mhm,
cultural identity. So you remove their names, you change their names, you force them to use a language or things like that are not theirs. You force them to eat foods that are not their cultural foods.
mhm,
So you insert yourself in between the food supply, the actual food supply, so that changes them.
mhm,
And then you trap them into a cycle where they have to work constantly towards something, and every time they get close to what it is they're working towards, you raise the bar, you shift it, and now the goalpost. So before, there was a certain level, for example, like in the 50s and 60s, a man could have a fifth grade education and he could go out, buy a home, get married, have his wife. His wife didn't have to work. She was able to be home and care for the family and care for the things that are in the local space. So they could tag team. He did the work out in the world.
mhm.
And and as soon as that became comfortable, when everyone was comfortable there, then they shifted the bar. So now, oh, well, come on, women, you're oppressed. You don't want to just be home all day. That's not the
Exactly.
way to live. Get out of the home. Get out. Be free. So now they've separated the family. They've broken the family unit. The family, tribe, and community are root chakra things. So when
Mhm,
you make you feel like you're less of a woman if you're home taking care of your family and taking care of the home space, you're less than. Now you've been taught to believe you're less than. And there's nothing wrong, of course, with women actualizing their totality. Women all through history, all through indigenous history, have always been allowed to actualize their total identity in whatever it is they wanted to do. So it's not a thing about being free to do this or do that. So once the family home has been damaged, then and you've separated the family. You've made them believe that staying home past 18 is just ridiculous, and you're a loser if you live at home with your parents when you're 22, or these kind of things. So you install this mentality so that they believe in separation. They believe in separation. That's why they come to the United States from other places, bringing their communal culture, and they end up winning above people who are living here because the people here are indoctrinated in the destruction of their root, their survival mechanism. So you break down the family first. And then once you have successfully broken down the family, and now you need to hold this divided community in a holding pattern, then what do? You create music that attracts, that resonates with the root chakra. So you have heavy
mhm,
bass music. And then what do you do with the heavy bass music that is activating the root chakra? You throw some filthy, dirty lyrics talking
mhm.
about destruction, damage, calling each other nasty names, and talking about poverty, abuse, and all of the things that have to do with the root chakra. So all the music, because if you hear the music, heart chakra music is geared toward a specific community, music that is in a higher octave,
Mhm.
music that has different topics, little fun poppy type music that's sung in a higher tone is marketed towards certain people. And then other music that has a low, deep bass sounds that make you want to twerk and things like that are marketed towards other communities. So that deep bass music, anything that makes it out into the mainstream invariably has filthy words,
Right.
degrading commentary. And so you lock people into a broken root chakra holding pattern by continuing to pump this type of frequency at them, so that every day they're listening over and over and over to these type of sounds. You hold them there in that pattern. You hold them in a pattern. You make sure that economically that they're not able to get ahead, so that now they're broken, separated, and they have music pumping in and holding their root chakra in a place of damage. You let them
Mhm.
think that procreation sex purely for the sake of pleasure is the only type of sex that there is, because sex for the sake of pleasure and for procreation is root chakra sex. So you lock them into that place and think that. So then the spiritual levels of sex where sex becomes healing. Here we are with the sacral, just throwing it in. We're going to talk more about that when we get to sacral. But so you when you have people believe that this is the only way to function, so you function so that the highest levels you need to reach is paying your bills and having cheap sex and being disconnected from your family, and you got to drag yourself to a barbecue or a Thanksgiving dinner and gossip about each other, over the table,
Yeah.
these kind of things. So this is how you destroy a root chakra of a community. So how do we build it back up? How do you heal a root chakra? This is what we are talking about in yesterday's episode. The beginning of healing, if you beginning of internal healing for all chakras starts with the heart. The heart, unlike we have been taught to believe, the root chakra is not the first chakra. The heart chakra
Hmm.
is the first chakra. That's the first thing that happens when you are born, are first conceived. Now, when you're born, when you're first conceived, the first thing that happens before you even have a spine, you have a heart. The heart beats.
Oh, interesting. So
That's
you're
the
right.
first chakra that's activated. And then the chakra drops down and it starts to cycle. So it goes down from the heart to the navel. The umbilical cord develop, and then the spine, and then and then it goes up the body and back down the front. So the heart is first. And so when we are talking about healing, we go to back to the heart. Everything, whenever you want to heal, you always got to go back to the source and you open up from there. So you have to open the heart. The things that open the heart: joy, love, peace, a
Hmm.
sense of freedom, gratitude. So the things that are currently that might make us complain, things like, oh, my family, oh, I don't talk to start to feel the gratitude for your family. The things that bother you, like we were talking about yesterday, paying bills. When you can pay the bills and you feel upset about paying bills, no, give gratitude. You should be grateful for the fact that somebody trusted you for 30 days with their product or service, and they were willing to give it to you, believing in you, that you would give them the money for the service that they offered you. When you have your phone bill, so like we said yesterday, we don't you don't make you don't have bills, you make bills. You
Indeed.
you made the phone calls, you turned on the lights, you cooked on the stove. So when it comes time to pay the bills for those things, you should be grateful that somebody was willing to open those to you. Because I tell you what, I guarantee that not one person complaining about bills wants to turn everything off, have no Wi-Fi, live by candlelight, go
Exactly.
down to the river and scoop water. Nobody's trying to live like that. So the
Exactly.
fact that people have set up services where these things are pumped right into our homes and dumped right into our hands, I'm grateful for those services. And
Mhm.
so that air of gratitude, that energy of gratitude, when you start to open your heart, that gratitude is like a heart opening. And when the heart opens, it automatically starts to pour energy around and heal the root, heal the sacral, heal the solar plexus, heal the crown, heal the third eye. All of these things become healed by us. So that's the most activating thing we can do. So we can start to be grateful for our communities, grateful for the technologies that we have that can shift our lives. We're in a root chakra season. This is a perfect time for us to open back up and go back into the root center and actually start to rebuild and manifest a kind of world that we want to be a part of, a kind of world we want to live in. I hate to break it down for you, but you're not going to get there by voting.
No, you're not
Sorry
gonna get
to
that by
burst
getting
any
it.
bubbles out there. You're not going to get there by voting. You're going to have to actually do it yourselves. You cannot
Exactly.
rely on a parasitic system that is designed to feed off of you and hope that somewhere along the way that they're going to just hand you things. They did not colonize this continent and murder all the people on it so that they could give you free resources and help you live the best life you can. They're here to take care of themselves using you in order to do it. And so,
Indeed.
sorry if that offends anyone. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. They have to get over it. I just want
Yeah,
to. I
the
think I have
solution
one
is
last thing. And yeah, I think you definitely expounded on the way to heal the root chakra through the heart chakra, which is going to require joy, trust, and gratitude, right? and and since we're talking about communalism regarding the root chakra, it is going to take us trusting one another. It's going to take us being grateful for one another as friends, family, and just grateful and joyous that we're able to walk this path together. Listen, it just makes me happy being able to develop any sustainable system. It's fun. Is it fun to me? Yeah, because I'm a nerd, whatever. But the joy is the fact that I have people I can call and talk to who say, "Hey, Dre, I either like that idea, I want to try that idea, I want to implement that idea, or better yet, here's my idea to go with your idea. How much grateful I am for that, right? Finding your tribe and loving one another is the only way. Listen, I wouldn't be able to build a self-sustainable microcosm by myself. I mean, well, I could probably build it, but it would be practically a an empty shell if I didn't have friends and family to enjoy it with, right? And that is, yeah, that is definitely a heart chakra thing for sure. Yeah, that's essentially at the root of it. Yeah, no pun intended.
Unintended. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, well actually no, we do have a few more minutes. We did get started a little late, so we probably
Okay.
have about 5 more minutes to wrap it up. So would you just to give us a couple minutes in conclusion about where people can find you, where they can connect to your community development, and how what's required to be a part of your community development system that you're working.
Gotcha, gotcha. How can you find me? I'm a really practical guy. If you really want to just reach out to me, first and foremost, just reach out to me directly. Just email me at andrehill360 at gmail.com. ANDREHILL360 at gmail.com. Um, you reaching out to me means you're sincere. I'm old school with it. I don't really have a fear of anybody calling me and harass. I don't have that fear. I know how to filter through that. A direct contact, a direct reaching out to me is how you get connected to this the fastest, right? Otherwise, you can reach out to me on social media. Reach out to me on Facebook, Andre Hill 2. In other words, Andre Hill, like the Roman numeral 2. Um, or you can reach out to my other Facebook page, Andre Maurice Amaru Day. Um,
And we'll
again,
write that in the comments so that if anybody wants to
the
follow.
link. Yeah, yeah. I'll give you the link so you can go straight to them.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna make it real simple, guys. That is how you get involved with self-sustainable microcosm development with me. Just reach directly out to me. I don't want to put you through a list of sites to where you leave a message and you have no idea whether or not a human's on the other end of the line.
Mhm.
Um, um, I'm sorry, you asked me what else would you want me to give them? My bad.
Yeah, no, just the information, and then what's required to be a part of your community, or like
Oh,
an overview of the broadest overview of what would
um,
required.
I'm not going to make that complicated either. What's required? In this stage, and I'm gonna say this objectively, and it is what it is. Right now, Aboriginal people, for one, Aboriginal peoples. Because right now we're the ones that have to build these microcosms as the first template and prototypes. Right? We're the ones that are going to have to develop them, and we're going to have to put all of our remembrance of culture into them because that's going to be the standard of them. Right. And that's going to be the standard for any culture that ends up building microcosms from here on out. And I say that because we have the DNA that has tenure on this planet. Right. And I have to stand on that. Okay. Um, the only thing I actually require from you is that you have the will. Right. You believe it or not, I have friends and family that have learned the skill set in a very short amount of time. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science on being able to build a self-sustainable microcosm. We already have the experts. We just need the people who have the will and who are willing to put up the resources and time, right? In other words, your contribution is going to be absolutely necessary. Okay. Um, so your contribution with either sweat equity and or finances, to be straightforward, both of those are welcome, right? Both of those are welcome. Um, when it comes to a contribution with finances, again, just reach out to me and ask me exactly what it is that you need. We have an entire system on how you can contribute financially. Um, and to what extent you want to be tangibly involved. We also have a programming system for that as well. Okay, is that good?
Okay,
It
excellent.
works.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
So let me just conclude. Thank you for that. And so just final conclusion, because when people just are curious about that bridge gap again,
mm,
how do I heal my root chakra? Now that I've listened to this episode and I realize, oh my goodness, I have all of the signs of a damaged root chakra. What do I do? How do I fix myself internally so that I can even take myself from my current place to a place where something like sustainable community and joining a sustainable community is even a possibility for me? How do I get from I can't pay my rent this month to I'm going to contribute resources in some way to a community that's being developed? How do I get there? So, of course, as the creator of Wadjet Yoga, for everybody who knows me or doesn't, serpent power yoga, serpent power energy, tapping into your chi, your ki, your life force, your kundalini, your Wadjet, by whichever name, by whichever culture that you call this, it's all the same thing. So, learning how to cleanse your root is essential. So, in the same way that you can lock a root chakra into a negative holding pattern by playing deep bass music and then throwing lyrics, degrading, filthy, nasty lyrics discussing poverty, assault, attack, violence, those types of things. You counteract these things. So you can go find a frequency, go on YouTube, find a root chakra frequency, and sit with this frequency. Concentrate on your root chakra. So the root chakra is located in the tailbone. The root chakra is not just one tiny space; it goes all the way to the prostate gland in men and to the cervix in women. So there's a sphere there. So you would concentrate on the sphere of that area.
mm,
Concentrate with red light. Concentrate. Imagine a sphere of red light at the root chakra, and you can listen to a frequency. Concentrate on that red sphere of light, and you can start downloading positive affirmations into you. In the same way they talk about killing and stealing and robbing and all of these kind of things in these lyrics that are designed to damage our root chakras. Start talking about the abundance. Write yourself a list of all the things that you want to manifest. Write yourself a list of all the things you want to become. Play that sound frequency. Sit down yourself. You'll devote 5 minutes per day to yourself and go into your sphere, your red sphere, and start listing your affirmations. Speak your affirmations into that sound frequency. Speak them into that red sphere of light. And that's just one, but there are many, many, many ways. There are many ways to heal the root chakra. If you'd like to learn more about root chakra healing, or you would like a personal consultation so that I can work with you, I'm a medical medium. I work with people to heal not only spiritual energy, but also to heal physical issues as well. And if you'd like to know more about that, you can join me on my Patreon at Temple of the Green Goddess. Go ahead over there. There are loads of videos, articles, and the link to setting up a personal consultation with me for any kind of healing work that's necessary. And we can get into your root chakra, but there are also things on there you can just follow videos, and these things are clearly laid out. So again, we're going into applied science. As I was explaining in our episode yesterday, I am a high priestess. High priestess is just an ancient word for a scientist,
mm,
for a master scientist. This is high science, the person who is mastering science not just of the physical world, but mastering science of the unseen world also. And when I say unseen, I use that term loosely because we can see the other
mm,
worlds. Um, and so if you feel ready to get into those dimensions, definitely let us get you into a space of purification and cleansing, but then also think about it from because this is taking you to something that you can apply. We don't just teach people here how to do stuff so that you can just sit around and be woo woo. The spirituality got its reputation of being woo woo because people don't apply it.
mhm,
If you take science and you don't do anything with it, it is woo woo. It's nothing. It's just teaching you how to just, oh hey, I know this, and if it has no value. except for bragging rights around other people who don't know it yet. Kind
Exactly.
of thing. It's unless until you apply the science that you've learned, it has value. So learning these things and then applying these things is how you bridge the gap, how you start to do, and then also just starting to actually live the things that are the root chakra issue. If you struggle with being on time, force yourself to set the clock so that you keep showing up everywhere 30 minutes ahead of time. Make yourself do it. It'll feel terrible at first. Force yourself to start showing up on time. If you struggle with finances, force yourself to take the first $1, $5, $10 out of every check just so you can say that you did it and put it aside somewhere and put it as yours. Mark it as yours. That's yours. Pay yourself first, even if you literally can only afford to give yourself $1
Hmm.
every single time, because the habit of doing that is actually healing your root chakra. What you're doing is teaching yourself consistency. Consistency is stability. Stability is a root chakra. That is something that manifests through a healed root chakra. So as you start activating little behaviors of stability, of consistency, of self-care, these kind of things are going to heal your root chakra. And as you do them, your heart is going to open more because you're going to feel grateful about who you are being to yourself. You're going to feel like becoming more worthy to yourself. And those are root chakra healing. So the gap between where you are and your massive community empowerment and whatever version of wealth it is you want for yourself are not that separate as they might seem. There's
And
there there's a very there's a very distinct way of getting there. There are many ways of getting there. You can tailor it to you, but it's not as difficult as you think. So thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, Andre. It's been great to have you here. These last two episodes have just been fantastic. I really enjoyed sharing these. Uh,
absolutely. Likewise.
Looking
Likewise.
forward to whatever the community building is that happens that comes out of this.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, me and you both, we have our plans moving towards it. And, uh, you know, I want to speak for both of us right now. We want to see these type of communities developed for us all, right? And we do want to invite you in, but you're going to have to go through the processes of change, right? And that's fine. It's going to be fun. Don't let me make it seem grim. It's going to be great.
It's not grim. It's not easy, but it is enjoyable because you're going towards a goal, and at the end of it, the thing that you want for your life, the actualization you want for your life, is there. It's actually available to you, and that's the most beautiful thing of all.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you listening. I hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and I will see you next week, every Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join me over on Patreon. You can, for $4.44 a month, you can join the Patreon community, and you can have access to all of my Wadjet Yoga videos. There are articles, videos, and all sorts of information in place that will help you on this process. This
Hmm.
is something I have been working on for decades and decades. And again, I'm still not ready to say my age number out to everybody. I will be bringing that through. But yeah, I've been working on this stuff for a long, long time. And so I've gone down all the hard roads, all the difficult
Yeah.
roads, all the
But
dead end roads, and I've come back with a story to tell about all of them, and they can help guide your path and make things a lot easier and more smooth for you. So see you all on the other side. Thank you again for being here.
thank you as well. Peace, peace.
Peace, bless, and have a good night.
Likewise.
And there we are.